Hey everyone, To here. Today I'm reviewing the Gaomon PD1561. This is a 15.6-inch Full HD LCD pen display. The pen supports tilt and up to 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. First of all, disclaimer, this is a review unit provided by the company, and in this video I'll just present to you my findings so that you can decide whether this is worth the money. And the price of this pen display is around US $250, which may be more or less depending on where you buy this from. Let's start with the bottom line. The pen performance is excellent. This pen is sensitive and accurate, and the performance is consistent and predictable. This is a matte textured screen protector which provides subtle tactile drawing experience, and it feels nice. Downside of this matte screen protector is it can be scratched, and I already have a few scratches on it within a week, maybe because I'm careless. Another thing about this is the anti-glare is kind of aggressive, so if there is strong light source on it, this is how it's gonna look. This is going to affect contrast, and if the ambient light is too high, this is also going to affect contrast. And also the maximum brightness of this pen display, from what I've measured, is around 117 nits, which is on the low side. So if you're using this at home, it would be good to use your curtains or keep the light lower so that the visual quality will look better, relatively speaking, because if it's too bright, the colors are going to look washed out due to the matte screen protector. 15.6 inch is a good size for drawing, and the pen display does not produce much heat. The pen display only supports HDMI video connection. There is no USB-C video support, and it would be good if your computer has one USB-A port for the cable. Otherwise, you need the USB-C to USB-A adapter. Color support is quite decent. I measured color support for 100% sRGB, 83% Adobe RGB, and 92% P3. So it's just the maximum brightness that is not as advertised. Latency performance is quite alright, no issues with that. And this display is laminated, so there is minimal gap between the line and the pen tip. It's just that the glass is a bit thick, so if you look from the side, there will still be the gap, but when you're looking from the front, it looks fine. There are 10 customizable side buttons by the side, and the pen has 2 side buttons which are also customizable. I didn't experience any issues when drawing, so the drawing workflow is very smooth, and that's pretty much the bottom line. So now on to the full review, where I show you the things inside the box. Let's look at the items included in the box. These are all the items in the box. There is this stand which you have to attach to the back of the pen display with the help of this Allen key, screwdriver, and 4 screws. This is a 12-watt charger with interchangeable plugs. This charger uses a barrel connector. This is the 3-to-2 cable. So on this side, which will connect to the computer, you get a full-size HDMI, this USB-A for data so that the pen can work, and this will connect to the charger to power the pen display. And on the other side, which connects to the pen display, you get a mini HDMI and a USB-C. This pen display does not support USB-C video connection, so you have to use HDMI for video. This is the pen stand that feels rather plasticky, and when you open this up, you can find 8 replacement pen nibs, and the nib remover is located beneath. This is the Gaomon AP50 pen that supports tilt and 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. It feels plasticky, but the build quality I'll say is solid enough. This pen is not powered by battery, so no charging is required. This pen has two customizable side buttons with firm clicks, and this silicone grip can attract dust quite easily. The pen tip has slight movement when in contact with the drawing surface, but it's not too bad. And inside this plastic pack, there is one artist glove, quick start guide, and a warranty card. There is also this rather big sleeve that you can use to keep the pen display, and this is made with felt. Let's look at the design of this pen display first before we attach the stand to the back. The design looks okay. The build quality feels a bit plasticky, but I guess the overall build quality is still considered quite solid. And this is a matte textured screen protector that has already been applied, and I've been using this for a few days and there are some scratches on it already, unfortunately. I'm actually not too fussy about scratches, but having scratches of course is not nice. Here on the left side there are 10 customizable side buttons, and we have more buttons on the side. This is the power button, and these 4 buttons are for the OSD manual. On the right side there is the mini HDMI port, and this is USB-C. And notice how the ports are recessed into the pen display, which means the cable connection will be very secure. But if you do need cable replacement, you will have to buy the replacement cable from Gaomon. The back is made with plastic, and this is matte textured. This is a 7.5 by 7.5 centimeter Besan mount, and these are instructions on how you can attach the stand, which is actually quite straightforward. The most important thing to attaching the stand is to make sure that this latch is facing up so that you can have your hand go behind the pen display to reach the latch. So let me just release the latch here so that I can see where the holes are and put the screws in. And you just screw all the 4 screws in. I will probably use tape to tape the screwdriver to the back of the pen display so that I don't lose this. So while installing the stand, the matte screen protector collected 2 more scratches, probably because I had the pen display like this on the table, but this table is quite smooth, so I don't know why there are more scratches. This pen display can be deployed almost vertically with the stand, but I'm not sure how safe this is. So this is probably safer, and this is the lowest angle. Now at the lowest angle, the bottom of the pen display will not touch the table, so this is going to move quite a bit when you're drawing on the pen display, so it's probably better to have, as the latch, probably better to have the pen display up further so that the bottom touches the table and we have the legs behind as support, so this is more stable. Now the bottom of the pen display unfortunately does not have rubber, so this may collect scratches over time, and I'll say the rubber grip for this leg or stand is good enough, as in it doesn't slide that easily on the table, so that's good enough. And now let's connect the pen display to the laptop. So this end with the mini HDMI will go to the pen display. The other end with the full-size HDMI and USB-A will go to the laptop. So if your USB-A port is on the other side, the cable will split behind. If your USB-A port is on the same side, the cables or the connectors can be together. As you can see, this pen display is not that bright. I measured a maximum brightness of 117 nits, and this laptop display has a maximum brightness of 318 nits. So in a bright room environment like this is not that bright, so you will have to draw your curtains in order for the colors and the contrast to look better. Let's see what you can do with the OSD. Under picture, you can adjust the brightness, contrast, and sharpness. Under display, you can probably leave all this as default. You can adjust the panel uniformity, gamma, temperature, color effect, change the aspect ratio. I'm not sure what overdrive is. And all this you can probably just leave as default. So this is a 15.6-inch LCD display. The resolution is 1920 by 1080. So this is a 16:9 aspect ratio. The colors to me look slightly washed out, mostly because of the matte screen protector. Now if you remove the matte screen protector, you're going to get that glossy reflective display, and the drawing experience on glossy reflective display is not going to feel good. If you have this matte screen protector on, you get that nice subtle tactile drawing experience, but the image quality is affected. I measured color accuracy for 100% sRGB, 83% Adobe RGB, and 92% P3. But as you can see, the real life visual quality that you can see is not representative of the actual measurements, mostly due to the quality of this matte screen protector. Matte textured surfaces usually will introduce some grain, color noise, or the shimmering effect, and on this it actually looks alright. So it's mostly the anti-glare that's affecting the image quality, more specifically the contrast. This display is actually laminated, but I think the glass is kind of thick. So if you look from the side, there is actually still a gap between the line and the pen tip. If you look from the front, this is not really an issue. Right now I'm holding the pen at 45 degrees, and I can see the cursor is directly beneath the pen tip. If I hold the pen vertically like this, I can see the cursor stray a few pixels away from the pen tip, and you probably cannot see that. Anyway, since I hold the pen at 45 degrees most of the time, the cursor alignment is actually pretty good. So I can join the lines without leaving gaps or without the lines overshooting. The company advertises 25 milliseconds latency, which is actually on the slower side. But when I tested the latency, it actually looks alright. So this is not that slow. This is actually the very typical amount of latency you can get with pen displays. And I certainly do not have any issues when it comes to drawing. And now let's see what you can do with the driver. So this is the Windows driver. I did not test the macOS driver. So this is where you can customize the two side buttons on the pen, and I have one button set to switch screen so that I can move the cursor from one display to the other and back, and this feature works well. This is where you can customize the pressure curve, and you can move the two control points around. This is where you can test the pen. You can choose to enable or disable Windows Ink for troubleshooting if pressure sensitivity is not working as expected. And let's tap here to go into the Express Key section. So this is where you can customize the 10 hotkeys by the side. You can choose from the pre-programmed shortcuts, or you can input your own keyboard shortcuts. And under workspace is where you can map the drawing area of the display to the desktop, and you can probably leave this as default. If there is cursor misalignment, you will have to do screen calibration. So you just have to click on the red dots as they appear on the screen to align the cursor to the bottom of the pen tip, which I have already done so I'm going to exit the calibration. That's pretty much it for this driver. Oh, you can actually create groups of shortcuts specific to certain apps. For example, you can create a group of shortcuts to Photoshop and just add Photoshop here. And you can add maybe Adobe Illustrator and create a group of shortcuts for Illustrator. So whenever the apps are launched, those shortcuts will automatically update according to which app you are using. This is the diagonal line test, and this is how thick the brush really is. So let me draw a thin line with minimal pressure. I can see slight jitter, but this is still considered quite straight. This is me drawing at a slower than usual speed. There is slight jitter, but it's not too bad. And the initial activation force of this pen is quite low, so you can draw thin lines easily, even with a thick brush selected. Let's see how the lines taper. They can taper quite smoothly and sharply, but you have to get used to how it tapers, because you can see here there is a little bit of a weirdness. Let's try again. Yeah, this looks good. Line transition from thin to thick. This is also a diagonal line, so we can see whether there is any diagonal line wobble. And this transition is quite smooth. Diagonal line wobble is not that obvious, I would say. And I am able to draw thin lines after drawing the thick lines, so pressure support with this pen is pretty good. Let's see if we can maintain consistent line width by applying consistent pressure. And I can do so quite easily. Let's check for the diagonal line wobble. It's not that obvious. I'll say it's not that obvious. Let's draw some dots. Works fine. Let's draw separate lines and join them together. So this is actually the cursor misalignment test. If there is any problem with cursor misalignment, it would be difficult for me to join the lines properly. This seems fine. And also as I draw, I can see some line variation because of the pressure sensitivity. So this is actually quite decent. I mean, the cursor alignment is good. There is no cursor misalignment. Let's try and create some hatching lines. So this is me drawing quite slow. Yeah, if you want to, you can create hatching lines, no problem. I am happy to say that the pen performance is pretty good. So this pen is quite accurate and sensitive, and the performance is consistent and predictable. Tilt works fine. The cursor is able to follow the direction of the pen. This app is Krita. Let's have a thin horizontal line, a broad horizontal line, thin vertical line, and a broad vertical line. And this app is Sketchbook Pro. Pressure works fine and tilt works fine. Right, let's talk about the drawing experience while I draw something really quickly. So this 15.6-inch display is a good size to work with. It's big and you can have palettes on the left and right and still have plenty of space to work with for drawing. The matte textured screen protector provides a subtle tactile drawing experience, which is good, which feels nice. It's not paper-like, it still feels plasticky, but it's still better than drawing on glossy displays. So here I'm trying to draw a building, trying to get the perspective to look right, and the lines are able to come out exactly the way I expect them to be. Pressure sensitivity works really well. I can use this for quick sketching, no issues at all. The pen performance, as mentioned earlier, is predictable, so there are no surprises when drawing with this pen. So even with a thick brush selected, you can actually draw thin lines easily because the pen is sensitive. Oops. I may have to tilt this down a bit further so that it's easier for me to draw. Now as I tilt the display down, the bottom of the pen display no longer touches the table. So this glides around quite smoothly because now it's just the rubber feet and this metal part that is touching the table. So you may want to put some rubber padding here, stick some rubber padding here to get more grip. Yeah, because right now when drawing you can see it moves, so you definitely need that extra rubber padding. So let me just move this up again so that I get more grip on the pen display. I do not use the hotkeys by the side because I prefer to use keyboard shortcuts. I'm much faster with keyboard shortcuts. So earlier the camera was actually in my face, so it's difficult for me to draw. So now the camera is by the side and I am able to draw the straight lines without issues. Now this pen display, if I am not wrong, is not that new. I believe the reviews for this pen display, some of the reviews actually came out years ago. So Gaomon is still selling this. Let's draw a tree by the side. Let's have some thin, thick lines just to get some line variation going. Yeah, this pen is really sensitive. That is really nice. So this allows you to draw very expressive lines with thin and thick strokes. So you can see I can get thin, thick, thin, thick, and the performance is really predictable. This is good. This performance, the pen performs really well. I wish the company could use matte glass surface though, instead of matte screen protector, because oops, I tried to use the touch screen, but this is not a touch screen. Yeah, so this is not a touch screen. Anyway, touch support for Windows is not that great. So even if this is a touch screen, performance is not going to, the performance with the touch is not going to be that great either. So this is actually a mosque. I'm drawing from a reference photo that I took the other day while out sketching with my friends. So I prefer to sketch outdoors on location, but for digital sketches like this, I sketch indoors. Okay, so far so good. So far I'm actually quite impressed by the pen performance. Any jagged lines that you may see, that's due to my lack of technique. The nice thing about having such a sensitive pen is you can actually use a thick brush and just use that same brush for the whole drawing. You don't have to switch brush sizes because to draw thinner lines you just apply less pressure. So it's very convenient when you do not have to switch brush sizes that often. For pens that have lousy pressure support, you have to constantly switch the brush size, come back and draw, switch the brush size, come back and draw. So that obviously is not great. So if you are someone who draws with a light touch, this pen is great because you can draw with a light touch. Check out the thin lines here. Latency performance, as mentioned earlier, is actually pretty good. I'm not sure if you can hear it. As I draw on the display, there is this sound. It's the matte textured sound that you get with the plastic pen tip. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish up this very quick sketch very quickly because I believe I have covered almost everything I wanted to say. Oh, there is no eraser behind, so if you want to erase you have to use the eraser tool. Anyway, I don't really use the eraser at the back even if there is an eraser at the back. Another nice thing about having a very sensitive pen is you can press down hard to get the broad strokes to fill in colors really quickly. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the image quality of this display now looks better, and that is because it's now quite cloudy. So my room is no longer as bright, and because of that, the display brightness is now slightly higher, relatively speaking, compared to earlier, compared to the ambient light. So now the visual quality is looking better. Yeah, but if you are using this pen display in a bright room environment, the extra light together with the diffuse reflection or the anti-glare, that is going to affect the image quality of the pen display. So right now this is actually looking pretty good, but of course if the display can be brighter, that would be better. So my style is not very precise. I mean, at least for this review, I'm not using a very precise style. But if you want to, you can actually draw accurately because this pen is quite accurate. No issues with the workflow, it's really smooth. Right, so this sketch is almost done. I'm not very particular about filling the colors into the gaps. Or maybe I should at least fill this one here. And now let's add some clouds. Done. This is Sketchbook Pro. Drawing performance seems fine. Let's see how the lines taper. They taper quite well. Right, to conclude, pen performance is excellent. So the main downside really is the maximum brightness and how the anti-glare can affect the contrast of the display when there is strong light source or very high ambient light. So it would be good if you can control the ambient light in your room. so as to get the best visual quality that you can get from this pen display, because the color support is actually pretty good at 100% sRGB. Alright, so if you guys are interested to buy this pen display, consider using the affiliate links that I have for you in the video description below, and if you have other questions, let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye.